It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and with us this morning is Dr. Diehl Hudson, here to talk about how to keep from losing your mind, educating yourself classically to resist cultural indoctrination. Thanks for being here, Dr. Hudson.
Kyle, pleasure to be with you, and I look forward to asking you questions in detail about my book.
Well, actually, I will... we'd be better served if you are the one answering the questions here.
Oh, okay, all right. Just this once. I'll answer the question.
So, what is your favorite piece of art?
Whoa! I lean toward music, even though I love all the arts. And if I had to have just one piece of music to listen to, I guess it would be Bach's Mass in B minor. It just is overwhelmingly, it's magnificent and deeply, deeply sacred.
Well, I will have to look that up after this. Check it out. Bach's Mass in B
minor.
Minor. That's one of my favorite
keys. If you
keys.
listen to the last section, the Dona Nobis Pacem, it will absolutely blow your mind. It's so beautiful.
Well, good. So whenever we're talking about educating yourself classically, what are we talking about? What does that mean?
We're talking about really, it's in an age in which so much around us is either toxic or just plain stupid. Culture is the school, as I say in the book, we go to every day. Because it's what's in the air, what's in the media, even what you hear chatter-wise. And so in order to protect yourself from being caught up in that, the ridiculousness and all the falsity of what we're hearing, it's time to go back to where, the basic ideals and ideas of Western Christian civilization came from. And that is from an array of books, of music, and I add film, which is an art form that's only 100 years old, but it's the dominant art form, and it already has a list of great films, that are very beneficial to watch. They're, as Bernard Berenson would say, the art critic, they're life-enhancing. And I lay out a kind of program for how to use your access, which is almost unlimited now because of the internet, to these great works of art, books, and films, to begin to gird your loins and avoid being indoctrinated.
So when were you first introduced to some of these bigger ideas behind liberal education?
Well, you really start getting them from day one, from elementary school, because it's impossible to talk about literature, history. It's impossible to talk about anything that educates your minds without either implying or explicitly stating values. I mean, you can talk about a picture on the wall, a picture of a boy and a girl, walking down a well or, working in a yard. That implies the value of friendship, which is a form of one of the four laws. And I, in the last section of my book, I treat the four laws, which C.S. Lewis coined: the parental love, friendship love, erotic love, and God's love, agape. And I bring books, music, and film under all of these different forms of love, discuss them, compare them, and talk about what these great works teach us about the nature of love, its challenges, but also its joys.
So if this is like such a natural thing for us to go through, how have we lost this as at least a popular form of education, this classical education or liberal education?
We've lost it because we've become distracted by all the myriad of choices. I just think, I was watching some kids out playing the other day. I'll be 70 in November. And I was thinking how wonderful it was to see a bunch of kids playing kickball, because, in the summertime when I was young, you either read a book or you played outside. And nowadays, I mean, just think of all the distractions, the malls, the video games, the obsession with just looking at screens.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many choices, we've forgotten the choices that really enhance our lives and make us better people.
Well, and it sounds like you're talking about quality too over just a certain form. So like the screen isn't necessarily bad because you're recommending watching certain films
Exactly.
and things. So
Exactly.
how do we establish what is quality art or quality things to consume versus some of the junk that we might be more attracted to sometimes?
That's of course a key question, Kyle. And in the book, I defend the notion of greatness in all things. I defend the notion of classic in all things. And in other words, what makes these things great or makes them classic is not some, choice of a few, egghead intellectuals. It's been the choice of over the centuries of the people, the common people who have read or seen or heard these things and have refused to let them go. You take Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. That was a very unusual, very, totally original work of art. It could have easily been forgotten for the rest of Western civilization. The people wouldn't let it go because it is, on the one hand, it's terrifying, the first few minutes, but on the other hand, it's one of the greatest affirmations of friendship, not just human friendship, but divine friendship in music, in all the arts.
We're talking with Dr. Diehl Hudson. The book is How to Keep from Losing Your Mind, Educating Yourself Classically to Resist Cultural Indoctrination. Quite a mouthful for a title, but really...
Well, but Kyle, I challenge you. I challenge you to go on YouTube and listen to the last movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony with when the chorus comes in and starts to sing about Freude, friendship. And then ask yourself, do I want to hear this again? And you will say, absolutely. I am totally psyched. I am lifted up. Life is good again. I aspire to things in life. I admit it. I'm not going to give up.
I will do that. And I will look forward to that reaction. We need more of that. And one of the things you talk about is that this is a skill rather than a matter of content or knowledge. So what do you mean by that? What is this a skill for, or how do we acquire the skill?
We forget that the word liberal and liberal education has nothing to do with politics. Nothing, zero.
Right.
It means freedom.
Okay.
And it's a skill to have a mind, or even a heart for that matter, that is free, meaning that you can look at the world with fresh eyes that are not filtered through hate, through prejudice, through assumptions about the world that are simply false, like the assumption that there is no truth out there. There's nothing that can be known, or the assumption that if you're of a certain race, you're going to think only in certain ways, or that you're going to be, inherently bigoted. You have to have freedom in order to grasp what is real as opposed to what is false. So this is a way of reminding yourself that, we all share a common human nature. That's what makes it possible for us even to communicate. That makes it possible for us to talk right now, and for you and your listeners even to know what I'm talking about. If I had a different nature, it would all be gobbledygook. So we have a human nature. We have a common human narrative that we live through, and what makes these works great is that they look at this narrative, they discuss this narrative, they help make sense of it, help us show the way through.
So what are the keys to having a free mind like you're explaining?
I think the first key is to be educated widely, especially in the area of history. I have so many people asking me right now, how can this be happening in our country? Why is this going on? Or in the church? And I say, if you had read about the history of the popes, you'd realize this is not such a bad situation. We don't have 3 popes right now the way we did back in the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have popes that are handing out, bishoprics and cardinals to their relatives and their kids and so forth. In other words, and history reminds us that human nature is capable of all and any evil, and that human nature has to be educated, built up, and sustained. Not just built up, up to age, grade 12 or the senior in college. It needs to be built up through an entire lifetime, because people lose hope. People lose the spirit. They lose the sense of aspiring to something better, more beautiful, and more true. This is something that should be with us every single day of our life, that we don't give up aspiring to being a better person and going to the resources that give us the inspiration and guidance to do that.
One of the things that you do in the book is you break down the book into 3 parts. Part 1 is beauty, part 2 is truth, part 3 is goodness. I would love to have you break down all 3 of those, but we're not going to have time to do that. So can you summarize your thoughts on goodness and how this fits in with a classical education?
Sure. Goodness is that toward which we all desire. It's broken into 2 parts: toward what we desire naturally and what we choose to desire. And the good that we all naturally desire is God, is the good, is the absolute. But what happens in life is that we start making choices that create false goods and set up, some goods as idols against the true good. And so the idea of the good represents what it is that leads to human happiness and what it is that leads to salvation.
This is also interesting, and I think really people are going to be attracted to is this isn't just how we need to reformat our higher education, but how we can take this upon ourselves and critically learn and to really think about the things that we are putting into our minds, the things that we're reading, the things that we're listening to, the things that we're watching. And you have so many great suggestions in here as well. Any highlights on some of the pieces that you'd suggest people read besides the book?
With Christmas coming up, I recommend people take a look at John Ford's movie 3 Godfathers with John Wayne. It's a Christmas story, but it combines elements of the prodigal son with the nativity, and it's an amazing pilgrim's progress, as it were, in film. And, get some people around the fire, turn on that TV, and watch that movie and then talk about it. It's very, very rich.
All right. And where can people get your book?
And get it on Amazon. They can also go straight to the tanbooks.com website. And there's also an ebook there that has all the hot links to the internet that I have included in the book.
All right. Again, the book is called How to Keep from Losing Your Mind, Educating Yourself Classically to Resist Cultural Indoctrination. Thank you so much, Dr. Diehl Hudson. Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, Kyle. Thank you.